Good morning. Start your day informed and ahead. Today is Tuesday, the second day of June. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
And I'm Cheska Lituncala. We are bringing you the perfect mix of the headlines you need and the conversations that shape your day.
From the news desk to the digital space, we have got you covered. I'm Pauline Verzosa, and welcome to Morning Matters. Ladies, good morning.
Good morning. Day 2.
Day 2.
Day 2.
And then day 2 din ang mga kaganapan.
Yes.
Sa Netflix.
Senate series.
Yes.
In a span of 24 hours, ang dami nang nangyari,
Yes.
diba?
And we'll try to talk about it.
Yes, we're gonna break that down.
All right, but we begin with Senator Jinggoy Estrada, who surrendered to authorities at Camp Crame after the Sandigan Bayan issued a warrant for his arrest. Estrada is now detained at the new Quezon City Male Dormitory Jail in Payatas. The Sandigan Bayan 5th Division earlier ordered his arrest over plunder and graft charges linked to a kickback scheme in the flood control scandal. And since plunder is a non-bailable offense, Estrada remains in custody while the court considers any bail petition. His arrest also carries significant political implications, with Estrada now unable to participate in Senate proceedings. The chamber's numbers are effectively deadlocked at 11-11. The bigger question now is how his absence will influence the balance of power in the chamber and whether it could trigger new political realignments in the days ahead.
Kalokohan ang lahat na ito. So how can the Office of the Ombudsman file a plunder case against me when I am not even alleged to be part of or the mastermind of the supposed scheme? Wala po akong kinalaman dyan. Ngayon ko lang po isa sa publiko ito. Maraming beses po ako inalok na talikuran ang independent majority block kapalit ang pagbabasura sa aking kaso. Ngunit, hindi ko po ito tinanggap. Mas nanaig ang paninindigan ko na ako'y manatili sa hanay ng mga kasamahan ko sa independent majority block.
Now, if you could see, a lot of people are saying that this could really change the dynamics sa Senate because 11-11 na sila. But going back to dun sa mismong case ni Senator Jinggoy Estrada, if you can remember, he cited that he is exempted or he was given the certification from the, let me check my
Legislative,
notes. Legislative Budget Research and Monitoring, or LBRMO, saying that there was no budget insertions in the budget ng 2025. But of course, Senator Panfilo Lacson said also that the absence of this certification doesn't mean you are totally free of charges, because there are other things that they should be looking at. You have also the allegations of kickbacks. You also have allegations of project allocation. So, yun yung kailangan na, kumbaga, patunayan ni Senator Jinggoy Estrada na wala siyang kinalaman doon.
And you know, this arrest of Senator Jinggoy Estrada is actually the biggest political development in the flood control scandal, right? Because he is the highest ranking sitting government official that has been arrested in relation to the flood control scandal. And some are even saying maybe this is the big fish we're actually waiting for, right? Because we've been waiting for months. They said arrests would be coming even before 2025 ended. But the Ombudsman took his time investigating these cases, and rightfully so, because nga they wanted to make these cases very airtight para naman talagang lumusot siya sa mga korte, but we're gonna have to see if the prosecutors can actually sustain this case because this is already the third.
That's
So,
third.
2001, 2014, and now 2026.
One for every decade.
One for every
Kaya nga,
decade.
if I'm not mistaken, somebody said, Jinggoy Estrada should write a book about how to get away with plunder. Because, di ba, parang ganun yung nangyayari. Again, it's fun, Pero, if you can remember, if you will see it sa social media, you will see a lot of
The
posts,
memes.
ng mga memes that in 2001, what were you doing in 2001?
Yeah.
I was, age reveal na ba to? I was in high school.
Ako, 6 years old ako.
Ay, wow.
noon.
Okay. So anyway, Angela.
Let's just Pero hindi, going back to that, diba? So 2001, then you have 2013, and this is about the PDAP scam o yung pork barrel scam involving Janet Lim Napoles, and Senator Revilla was also involved in that issue. And then here you are again for the third time.
For the third time. And again, with everything that happened yesterday, even with, of course, John Vic Remulla heading to the Senate, you know, it's something that people just kind of just have to watch. It's hard to not watch. Na para, yun na nga, parang teleserye yung labas na nagtataasan na naman ng boses with Senator Peter Cayetano and then John Vic Remulla. Yung sir, ano yun, sir, I'm sorry you lost that privilege when Bato escaped.
And then back to you siya doon. Ano?
And then, what else happened yesterday at the Senate?
Yeah, but it's good that you mentioned that because now people are saying that if that happened to an ordinary person, aresto ka agad yun, posas ka agad yun. No? But what difference does it make if a lawmaker is also being tried with this kind of case? Bakit there's some kind of special treatment? And you see, there's a Senate president there creating a scene, so allegedly creating a scene, no, saying na this didn't happen before,
Yes.
diba, na merong maaresto na senador sa loob ng Senado. But if we will look back at the history of the Senate, yes, there were times during the Cory administration na merong dapat arestuhin doon, pero hindi siya na-aresto. Pero if you look at the case of Senator Antonio Trillanes, he was arrested during a session. Senator Laila de Lima was arrested, pero walang session at that time. So there were precedent na may mga naaaresto. And I was talking to Senator Erwin Tulfo kanina sa Good Morning Kapatid, and he said, no, kahit nasa, siguro sesyon, pagbibigyan niya na kung nagsesesyon doon, 'di ba? Huwag naman yung kaagad kunin, 'di ba? Pero any part of the Senate, pwede kang arestuhin.
All right, now here's another issue we need to talk about. Vice President Sara Duterte has formally responded to the articles of impeachment filed against her. Her legal counsel, attorney Michael Poa, submitted her answer to the Senate on Monday afternoon. Poa said the defense raised what it described as constitutional and procedural defects in the impeachment complaint. It also argued that the allegations do not constitute impeachable offenses, and Duterte's legal team further challenged the evidence-gathering process conducted by the House Justice Committee. The impeachment trial is set to begin on July 6. All right, so yesterday we saw Vice President Sara Duterte's legal team even carrying maletas. Right? It was very visual.
Maleta ngayon.
Oo, yung optics, no.
Dimples?
So what happened here is they filed their reply on the last day that was given to them. They were given 10 days to submit their comments, their reply on the articles of impeachment. But what they did here was focus mainly on the procedural aspect of the impeachment process. No, they parang hindi talaga pa rin nila sinagot yung mga articles, yung merits of the case. They argued about the House Committee exceeding its authority, conducting yung mini trial na tinatawag, di ba? Sabi nila, the impeachment outcome was already predetermined because of some of the statements that lawmakers have said. But what will follow after this is also the House Prosecution Panel submitting their reply naman doon sa naging komento ng OVP ng
So
Vice
the
President.
House prosecution naman, their deadline is June 8.
Yes.
But Representative Luistro already said that they hope to respond within the week.
Yeah.
Right. But what's interesting here is that also, yes, tama yung sinabi ni Pawi that they focus on the process, no, of the impeachment trial, not the merits of the case, but also what's interesting here is that the main prayer of the case, no, ay dismissal. Yun yung gusto ng kampo ng nila Sara Duterte, nila VP Sara, when in fact, no, the sole obligation of the Senate Impeachment Court is to proceed forthwith. Proceed with the trial forthwith. So they don't have obligation or duties, no, to dismiss any motion. So medyo para ako, hindi naman ako abogado, pero that particular move, so parang bakit parang may ganun? Dahil hindi naman kaya mag-decide ng Senado na mag-dismiss ang any motion. So like what I've said, the sole obligation nila is to proceed with the trial forthwith.
What I found interesting also with the reply of the OVP is they still raised issues on due process. Okay, so they said that the Vice President was not given a fair opportunity to respond to the materials, to the articles of impeachment, to the evidence before they were consolidated, diba, into the articles, which is, I think, questionable because paulit-ulit nating nakita yung House Justice Committee inviting the Vice President to attend personally. They always called her name. They reserved a seat for her. So they I guess they could argue that, they exhausted all means to allow the Vice President to give her comments, to air her side, and given a fair opportunity. So,
And this fact, I guess, is yung ginawa ng House Justice Committee is that parang nag-ano sila, ang tawag dito, very delicate sila when proceeding with this option, no? Unlike the other time na nag-proceed sila sa impeachment trial.
And then again, this circles back to the discussion about the Senate because for this to continue, again, 16 votes needed.
Yep.
But right now we're at 11-11. So it's all connected. This is a long discussion.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can talk to someone also who can explain exactly how everything will, is connected and will be affected.
of course, the impeachment is a very important process, right? Because, Okta Research released a survey yesterday, the results of their survey, and it shows that 3 in 4 Filipinos support proceeding with the Senate impeachment trial. So that's 74%. Ano?
Yes.
I believe meron pang ilang numbers, even sa South, no, sa Mindanao, which is the known bailiwick of the Dutertes. But and yet, they agree with a trial proceeding para naman mabigyan din si Vice President ng her day in court.
Yeah, oo. Kasi that survey naman doesn't mean na you are agreeing that the Vice President is already, guilty of the accusations of that. The only main premise of that survey is for them to, proceed with the trial, itry natin ito, kamustahin natin, isa-isahin natin yung evidence kung talagang may kasalanan yung Vice Presidente or not. But of course, there will be media blackout, sabi ng kampo ni VP Sara. Ibig sabihin, hindi muna siya magpapa-interview, di ba, in the course of the trial, which is 45 days, regarding this.
Okay, so many things to discuss, but right now, we shift to sports where basketball fans are in for a big week, both here and abroad. In the PBA, another chapter is about to be written in the rivalry between TNT and Barangay Ginebra as they face off once again in the Commissioner's Cup Finals. It's a question of repeat or revenge, with TNT looking to continue its winning run against the Gin Kings, while Ginebra hopes to finally turn the tables. Meanwhile, the NBA Finals also tip off this week with the New York Knicks taking on the San Antonio Spurs in Game 1. And for the first time in years, the Larry O'Brien Trophy logo is back at midcourt, bringing back that classic finals look for basketball fans. Okay, so let's start with, wait, ang dami kasi mangyayari in sports din.
It's so exciting.
So, basketball is the topic of the week for sports, no? Because the PBA Finals Game 1 is tomorrow. And this rivalry between good friends, Shot Reyes and Tim Cone, this started way back.
Bata pa tayo.
1994. Bata pa tayo.
Shot Reyes, Pure Foods. Diba? Alam ko
You're
yan.
correct. Because 1994 was Shot Reyes and Pure Foods versus Tim Cone in Alaska.
Diba?
Okay, but
I know my players.
How old are you? I don't
Alvin sa Trimonyo ako dati. Nagkakalabasan yung edad. Anyway.
Okay, but and then also another story here is Justin Brownlee, who has been the import for Ginebra for years, is now facing off with Chris McCullough, a friend of his. Na Chris met Justin, he was just 13 or 14.
Oh, in the US.
Yes, in the US.
They go way back.
And then Chris also is coming in to replace Bol Bol, the original import of
very
TNT.
sad news for Bol Bol when he tore his Achilles. But it's
heel.
good that Chris McCullough came in. He was the import for San Miguel. I think that was 7 years ago when he led them to a title. So we're gonna see if he can also lead the TNT Tropang Giga to another championship in the PBA.
Okay, so now with the NBA.
Yeah.
So,
Ang dami, ha?
So for the first time, we're gonna have Filipinos facing off in the finals. So we have Dylan Harper, the number 2 pick, the son of 5-time NBA champ Ron Harper, and Maria Pizarro, whose family hails from Bataan.
Yes.
And then we have Jordan Clarkson, of course, for the New York Knicks, and we've seen him suit up for Gilas Pilipinas. So that's another, I'm sure, as Filipino basketball fans, manonood tayong lahat dun. But other than that, the last time that the Spurs and the Knicks faced each other in the finals, 1999.
You know.
Ayoko na siya tanongin.
Anong ginagawa natin 1999?
High school pa ako nun.
High school din ako. Ay, hindi, grade school pa lang.
I I know a lot of NBA fans are excited for...
Wait, last what?
Pero you know what?
Naisip ako
Oo.
You were grade school 99?
Oo. O di ba nagbilangan pa kami dito. Pero tama si Pauline no about yung NBA fans na talagang very excited sila with this match because I for one witness my husband Diego, he's been very kumbaga solid fan of loyal fan of Spurs no. Hindi niya iniwan ng Spurs kahit may mga times na super tanks sila.
Si
And
Andre
then
naman,
he
yan, big Knicks fan yan. New
Oh,
York
diba?
Knicks.
So
magkapatid
mag-aaway sila
ni
dalawa.
Diego.
So ngayon, he was kinda, parang teary about it because sabi niya, finally, kumbaga, diba, the other team, no, is chasing first title in decades. And here you are, another team, trying to remind everyone what championship really looks like.
Wow.
Diba?
Diego, would you like to get...
Yeah. All right. So here's some good news for motorists. After weeks of price hikes, fuel prices are going down in a big way today, June 2. Fuel prices have gone down by at least 4 pesos and 76 centavos per liter for gasoline, 9 pesos and 26 centavos for diesel, and 10 pesos and 86 centavos for kerosene. The Energy Department says prices are now moving closer to pre-war levels amid easing tensions in the Middle East and improved sentiment over global oil supply.
I'm not sure about the pre-war levels.
Medyo.
As a diesel girly.
I actually passed by a gas station earlier this morning and I saw gasoline was around 75 pesos per liter and malayo pa yun kasi pre-war level it was around 50 so 25 pesos pa.
Exactly.
But any rollback
Any
is
decrease is very welcome.
Yeah.
I will take it. We will all take it because we all know how fuel prices affect everything also.
So you have to wait lang lagi talaga pag Tuesday. So if it's going to go up or go down, and you will see gasoline stations if they see na tataas ang presyo, there will be lines in the gasoline station, 'di ba? Para
Monday night
iwasan
pa lang.
yung Monday night pa lang. So ganun. Pero yeah, any decrease is much appreciated because of what's happening right now, especially our driving kapatids, no? Yung mga sa jeepney drivers because most of them talaga are the ones that are really affected, and our commuter kapatids also, 'di ba? Kasi magkano na yung ginagastos like yung mga jeepney drivers,
Yes.
magkano na nauuwi nila sa family nila. There was a time nung yung peak ng pagtaas ng mga gasolina, wala silang nauuwi. So they would rather stay at home or do other things than go out there and drive because there's nothing much left for them.
And then I remember seeing this post before, yung isang sign na lang sa likod ng jeepney na hindi siya magtataas ng presyo, iabot na lang kung ano yung kayang iabot.
Diba?
back to
Nakakadulog
bayanihan spirit na lang. But that shouldn't be the case. Our government still needs to do something. We get so caught up with all the politics, all the politicking. Minsan nakakalimutan natin, we're still in the middle of a crisis. President Bongbong Marcos hasn't lifted yet, right? That
yung VAT, yung lahat ng mga gustong i-lift.
So hopefully this can also be addressed. More pressing matters that our leaders should focus on.
Exactly.
All right, don't go away. Morning Matters will be back after a short break.
Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. Vice President Sara Duterte is asking the Senate Impeachment Court to throw out the articles of impeachment against her. But House prosecutors are pushing back, saying they will oppose any move to dismiss the case as they prepare for the trial set to begin in July. Mobile journalist Amy Atienza has this report.
The camp of Vice President Sara Duterte has already responded to the issuance of summons given by the Senate Impeachment Court last May 20. In an executive summary document provided by Duterte's legal counsel Michael Poa, the VP's answer urged the court to junk the articles of impeachment, citing that those were, quote, constitutionally infirm, procedurally defective, and substantively deficient. The 11-member House prosecution panel is also expected to oppose this stance from the side of Duterte.
Definitely, if there will be move or request towards the dismissal of the impeachment complaint, i-oppose namin yun. I said it earlier that the Senate rules on impeachment does not speak about dismissal.
Some lawmakers also released statements regarding the VP's response. House Prosecutor Chel Jokno, in his statement, posed a question that if VP Sara has nothing to hide, why is she refusing trial? Meanwhile, prosecution spokesperson Zia Adyong said that the prosecutors will undertake a review of the submission of Duterte. The prosecution panel, nonetheless, continued to look straight ahead and prepare for the upcoming trial, which is expected to commence by July 6. In a press briefing held Monday, June 1, House Lead Prosecutor Jervy Luistro affirms that the prosecution team will file this reply within the week.
To file the reply until Friday. We're given 5 days from receipt of answers. So, sana matapos namin within the week para lahat ng responsive pleadings filed now with the impeachment court. So, after the receipt of the answer and subsequently of the reply, we will be looking forward to the conduct of pre-trial conference. No?
As part of their preparations, the prosecution panel also had minimal changes with regards to the handling of the presentation of the impeachment articles before the court. Luistro will remain as the lead prosecutor, but Representative Joel Chua will take over as head for the article on confidential funds initially handled by Luistro. Bribery, which was initially assigned to be led by Chua, will be transferred to Representative Keith Flores. Representative Lawrence Defensor and Representative Terry Ridon remain for grave threats and unexplained wealth, respectively.
Hanggat hindi po natatapos ang presentation of evidence, please anticipate that there will be changes on the assignment of prosecutors, no? After all, ito po ay exclusive authority ng prosecution to decide on how we will present our evidence, who to present, what to present, and when to present them, no?
The pre-trial conference of the House prosecution team is expected to occur on June 15. Kapatid Amy Atienza, we are One News.
Now, over in Malacanang, yesterday was marked by a series of diplomatic engagements for President Bongbong Marcos. But no day in the palace is complete without mention of Vice President Sara Duterte. More from mobile journalist Julie Baiza.
On Monday morning, the 1st of June, President Bongbong Marcos reported that he had a productive phone call with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. He said they discussed regional economic and trade priorities, reaffirming the commitment of Manila and Washington to further strengthen their alliance. Also on the first day of the new month, Malacanang also welcomed Vietnamese President Cho Lam. Both countries have agreed to upgrade their relations to an enhanced strategic partnership. President Marcos said peace and stability in the South China Sea remain, quote, non-negotiable. He also said the Philippines and Vietnam share a common interest in maintaining peace, stability, and a rules-based order in the region. For his part, Lam said Manila is an important regional partner of Hanoi, citing a similar vision and strategic interest. Before his diplomatic stints, President Marcos also spoke to Bloomberg Television, where he admitted to having no regrets running alongside Vice President Sara Duterte in the 2022 elections. The Marcos Duterte ticket won by a landslide 4 years ago.
No, I don't think so. I think it was, I think for the time that that was the best thing that we would do. We had the same idea of what needed to be done in government.
However, he also raised concern over another Duterte presidency. In a seeming reaction to the president's interview, Davao City Representative Paulo Duterte questioned Marcos's legacy, saying Filipinos should be able to point to clear, tangible accomplishments beyond slogans and photo opportunities. The lawmaker likewise stressed PBBM would not have won if it were not for his sister, something the palace press officer rebutted. Undersecretary Claire Castro said the differences between the president and the vice president are much more pronounced now. She underscored the fact that the chief executive fought for the country's right over the West Philippine Sea and that he continuously worked and very rarely went on vacation.
Mas maganda po sana manood siya ng press briefing, mga news, mainstream, state-owned media. Lumalabas po kasi na hindi siya updated, hindi nagbabasa, hindi nanonood ng news. Nakakaawa naman. Nabubuhay sa dilim, nabubuhay sa fake news, nabubuhay sa sariling imahinasyon.
Yuse Castro circled back to the Vice President who just celebrated her 48th birthday on May 31st.
Siya po ay ating babatiin at gagayahin ko po ang kanyang pagbati ng maligayang kaarawan. So naganda po tayo ng isang mensahe para kay VP Sara. Happy birthday, VP Sara.
And in other news, the Department of Health and the Lung Center of the Philippines are raising the alarm over the rise of vape use among the youth as they call for stronger regulations and more support for Filipinos who want to quit. Mobile journalist Daniel Dayo has this report.
Isang mas malusog at safe na Pilipinas. Iyan ang layunin ng Department of Health at Lung Center of the Philippines ngayong simula ng No Smoking Month.
Bagong Pilipinas, bawat baga mahalaga. That is the message of health officials as they renewed their call for a smoke-free and vape-free Philippines during the observance of World No Tobacco Day and National No Smoking Month. The campaign kick-started through the Breathe of Life Gallery exhibit and Tobacco of Now Film Festival, aiming to raise awareness on the dangers of smoking and vaping.
Lung cancer remains among the leading causes of cancer-related mortality or deaths. And while chronic respiratory diseases, pneumonia, tuberculosis, and other pulmonary conditions continue to affect millions of Filipinos every year.
And with more than 16,000 vape flavors available worldwide, health officials raise concern over the growing number of young vape users in the country.
Taong 2021, nasa 8% lang po ang gumagamit ng e-cigarette. Pagdating ng 2023, pumalo na po ito sa 40%. Kasi yung hindi kayang bumili ng napakamahal na sigarilyo, lumipat na sa vape. At may flavors ito. Kaya may market din ang mga kabataan.
As total vape ban remains under discussion, the agency now pushes for stronger regulations, including that of their three-pronged approach. Raising the minimum age for purchasing vape products from 18 to 25 years old, banning flavored vape products, and imposing higher taxes on both devices and consumables. And for Filipinos who want to quit, the Lung Center of the Philippines also promote Quitline 1558, a free service that provides counseling and cessation support for smokers and vapers.
Don't go away because Money Talks with Kathy Yang is next to get you ahead of the markets. I'm Pauline Verzosa. Stay tuned to One News.
Welcome to Money Talks. I'm Kathy Yang, your intel on the Philippine markets and the Is moving to build its strategic petroleum reserves to shield the Philippines from future oil shocks. The Philippine National Oil Company is taking the lead in this initiative because it has the mandate to ensure the country's energy security, while the Maharlika Investment Corporation will secure necessary funding. The Philippines got the support of various Japanese firms during President Marcos' state visit to Japan last week. The Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia and Japan Organization for Metals and Energy Security, among others, will conduct feasibility studies and provide capacity building.
This will be a more systematic and a more organized system. Na it won't be reactive, that we will have our own reserves in the Philippines, sufficient enough to weather any effects or disruptions in the other parts of the world. There are certain objectives that we are trying to reach, but the primary purpose is to add more to the 60 days na stockpile ng private companies or the 30 days. Yung country mismo, ang gobyerno mismo, meron din siyang reserva. And the objective is to have more than what the private has.
The Philippines is also committed to participate in the establishment of an ASEAN-wide joint stockpiling system to strengthen regional energy resilience. Meantime, the DOE has set minimum rollbacks for diesel at 9 pesos and 26 centavos per liter, gasoline at 4 pesos and 76 centavos, and kerosene at 10 pesos and 86 centavos. As for LPG, the Energy Department has set a maximum increase for June at 3 pesos and 41 centavos per kilo. That translates to a 38 peso increase in the standard 11-kilogram cylinder. On the international front, diplomacy between the U.S. and Iran comes to a halt after Israel ordered an attack on Hezbollah, Tehran's close ally. Iran's foreign ministry says any attack on the militant group will be a violation of the ceasefire. The United Nations called an emergency session Monday to discuss about the latest situation, with one official warning of its repercussions.
These developments mark a dangerous and alarming escalation, directly undermining the cessation of hostilities understanding announced by the United States on 16 April and eroding fragile diplomatic efforts to de-escalate the situation. They cast a long shadow over ongoing attempts to facilitate direct talks between Lebanon and Israel and risk derailing the already tenuous path toward a permanent ceasefire.
As of 8:30 a.m. Philippine time, benchmark Brent crude is down 0.1% at $94 per barrel. West Texas Intermediate falls 0.25% at $91 a barrel. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas says it is prepared to tighten monetary policy further if higher inflation expectations become entrenched. In a report by Reuters, the BSP vowed to take necessary action to bring inflation back to its 3% target. The central bank raised its key policy rate by 25 basis points to 4.5% in April. BSP Governor Eli Remolona told this program that they are considering an off-cycle rate hike ahead of their June 18 meeting. The Philippine Statistics Authority will release the May inflation data on Friday, June 5th. That's less than 2 weeks before the Monetary Board's third policy meeting this year. As for the peso, the central bank reiterated that it does not target a specific exchange rate and will only intervene when volatility threatens price stability. It added that while the country remains exposed to oil price shocks, a weaker peso can help support exports, remittances, and the business process outsourcing sector. In other news, the government has issued new nationwide rules to standardize how local governments tax registered business enterprises, or RBEs. The joint directive, issued by the Departments of Finance, Interior, and Trade, seeks to address long-standing inconsistencies in the implementation of local tax rules for incentive-registered firms. Under the new framework, eligible enterprises may be subject to a registered business enterprise local tax, or RBELT, capped at up to 2% of their gross income. Officials also said it is designed to replace multiple local levies, helping simplify compliance and improve predictability for investors. They added that the reform supports the Create More Laws goal of making the Philippines a more competitive investment destination. Hours ago on this program, former Deputy Governor Diwa Ginigundo of the Bangko Sentral told us of looming systemic risks when political instability and uncertainty become an important factor in the viability of an economy. He, however, is holding out for the Senate to restore its credibility and to do so quickly.
What makes the situation different is that the issue goes beyond personalities or partisan disagreements. And they are bound to be continue for the moment. However, the situation is not exactly beyond repair or beyond resolution, because if we look at some of the proposal precisely to make sure that the Senate is able to restore credibility, I think there are possible solutions for the Senate to be able to restore its credibility, and it should do it fast. For example, the Senate can always reaffirm constitutional independence, and that is we have yet to see that today, or perhaps in the next few days, in the way the Senate conduct itself. Number two is to ensure transparency, in their leadership, transparency and consistency with established rules. I think the Senate can also avoid actions that could create perceptions of uncertainty and volatility. In other words, if these reforms are undertaken by the Senate itself, that could have positive impact on the economy, on perceptions of risks, perception of instability by both business entrepreneurs as well as investors from foreign as well as from the Philippine economy itself.
Our guest today published a December 2025 report warning that any form of, quote, unproductive spectacles are costly. 6 months on, he says it's still a spectacle. With us now for more is JP Rivera, Senior Research Fellow at the Philippine Institute for Development Studies. It's good seeing you again, JP.
Hi,
welcome back to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So, 6 months on,
Yeah.
how does spectacle look like to you, and at what cost to the Filipino people?
Well, the spectacle, or the drama, as what DG Diwa mentioned in his interview, is saying to us right now, is that the institutions that we have right now may tend to lose focus on what really matters, particularly our economic indicators. And the sad thing about that, the loss of focus will be borne, the cost will be borne by the ordinary Filipino people. That as we're speaking right now, an ordinary Filipino is actually cutting down on medicine, on education, and so on, because of this crisis that may be traced to the loss of focus of institutions.
May be traced. So there is that uncertainty as well in trying to define what really is self-inflicted and what is because of the global shock that we just experienced 5 weeks out. I mean, we're just experiencing lower oil, but still that's not pre-war.
And the thing about this is that it's a combination of both internal and external factors. Though we cannot do anything about the external factors, but there's a lot of leverage we can do with what's happening in our country.
Well, talk to us about that leverage, because I know that you mentioned, and you do agree, you've watched that interview, even before we came to you to talk about your 2025 report, which still resonates. What exactly can be leveraged on?
Okay, so in terms of policy leverage, I think we have to step back and look at where is the Philippines short of as of the moment. And we are not short of policies, we're not short of laws, and we're not even short of great minds. But the thing is, we are short of coordination in such a way that the policies now would reflect the intended outcomes of that policy through employment, through better fiscal management, macroeconomic indicators. And this lack of coordination is telling us that this is the root cause why our economy is moving like this, which is again partly driven by what we can control, but we're not controlling, which is our domestic factors.
All right, so domestic factors would mean, say, 24 hours ago, whatever happened at the Senate, down to the Sandigan Bayan. I'm sure you've seen it on your feeds. That goes beyond that, because when you count the months back, we have the flood control scandal. And again, a self-inflicted sort of a problem for the Filipino people. So looking back at those risks, how much of a systemic risk has this become? And whether you consider this a credibility crisis or something less so?
Well, for me, it's more of a systemic, if I may call it a systemic crisis, because our country, yes, we do have a lot of laws, we do have a lot of policies, great policies, if I may say, but the implementation of that, the accountability involved in the implementation of that policy is kind of short. Because we're still encountering this, a lot of drama, a lot of issues, who should be penalized. And I think I've mentioned this before, that penalizing those who are involved in the scandals must be done to show that there's accountability and that it shows stability in our quest to have a stable macroeconomic indicator.
Well, to your point about being great at crafting laws, and we are, the Philippines has a lot of laws, and we're proud of that. How come it falls short? I mean, by design, typically one would think, by design, it would have those systems checks, the accountability checks that we've all been looking for, but it's not going through.
Well, case in point, no? Let's look at the issue of energy. We know what's the problem. We do have the solutions. We do have the policies. But a lot of decades have passed, and energy prices remain to be very high. Why is that so? It's because the agencies working for energy resiliency or energy stability, they're working in silos. They have different KPIs, they have different timelines, and they have different incentives. So the laws that we have is telling people what to do and what they should not do. But talking about the implementation, talking about the incentives that would allow me to do it, to comply with it, or be afraid of it because I'll get penalized if I do not follow the law. That's where we are encountering some constraints.
So if we were to look back, and you just said there are the existing laws. If the Energy Department and, say, the Energy Regulatory Commission did find a way to work together, how should they?
That's why I've been emphasizing coordination is really key. And for coordination to happen, timelines would have to be aligned, KPIs would have to be aligned, and the systems would have to be in check. Another case that I would like to emphasize here would be the flood control. And billions have been spent. Flood control projects have been completed, and don't get me started with those ghost projects. But then flooding continues because in a systemic world, it's more than engineering. It's more than engineering. There's this relocation policies, watershed management, climate resilience, and so on. It's not about just constructing the flood control, but given the systems, the incentives that we have, currently, in my observation in the study that I have published recently, the system is actually rewarding short-term accomplishments more than long-term accomplishments.
And that's not even including the skills mismatch, which we keep talking about, even before the flood control scandal. And that takes us back to the lack of coordination, if you will, in the education ecosystem, from the DepEd to the CHED to TESDA. What are you finding there that's missing as a systemic risk also?
Well, one of the risks here is that every peso that we're actually spending on fixing what went wrong with governance, in these infrastructure projects that did not materialize, is a spending that did not go to education, to health, and to social protection, things that would actually allow our countrymen to feel the benefits of the taxes that they pay. It's a reallocation. And by going into more risky projects like that, deprives another segment of the economy for a more productive spending.
Well, it sounds like we hadn't recovered from COVID then. I mean, there was a realignment that happened in COVID. Are we not able to have chased that and redesigned the system so that we could cope with whatever's going on right now?
Well, looking at what's going on right now, we all remain to be very reactive of what's going on. Again, case in point, the oil price shock that we're encountering right now, this is not new. This is not new, and why is no one ready? So
well, when the Energy Secretary says there's going to be a strategic petroleum reserve, and in particular not to be reactive, she said it herself, will that work out?
Well, that's the thing, because the world economy is moving so fast, but the way we react is very slow. So that mismatch. So we have to move as fast as we can, because the slower we respond, then the cost is borne by the Filipino people.
So what are you saying, too late?
Well,
to build that strategic petroleum reserve?
I would put it this way. It is a reminder again for all of us that we have to think long term. It's not just within the 3 years of political position, but more of the long term.
We don't have to look very long, because when you look at your growth forecasts, and it's, if we can just pull that up, because it's just so stark. From the 2025 report that I looked at, it was at 5.3%.
Exactly.
You've slashed that down to 4%. It's more than a full percentage point. To what extent is that self-inflicted, and to what extent is it because of the oil shock?
Well, given our recent conversations with other think tanks, with other economists, and running the numbers, initially running the numbers, putting in our assumption that this crisis would last for a longer period of time, I mean, until the end of 2026, spilling over to early 2027, and looking also how sensitive the Philippine economy is to domestic and foreign influences, then it is only prudent to lower down our forecast so that expectations are also anchored, and that decision-making for both public and private sector are also anchored on the realities that's happening on the ground.
Well, we're going to be connecting the dots in a couple of days, because the May inflation results going to be released by the Philippine Statistics Authority. Business World's medians got it at 7.9%. So to what extent do you think that result would reveal the kind of systemic risk that we've just been talking about a couple of minutes ago?
Well, the high median inflation that's forecasted for May is actually telling us that the risk to the purchasing power of our kababayans is very serious, that they're actually losing their capacity to attend to their basic needs. As I was telling earlier, as we speak now, there are people who are now on the border of poverty who might join those who are classified as poor, given the recent developments in the macroeconomy. That's why the intervention would have to be so targeted, well thought of, well researched of, so that the funding, the money, will actually go to whom it is actually beneficial.
So what then should the government do to be so targeted and save those from getting into the new poor category?
Well, this is again a long shot, because it requires data. Again, the middle class are saying that we're not benefiting from government support, because it always goes to the poor, to those in the fringes of society. But the problem here is data. How do we know who are the middle class? It's a very huge segment of society, and the data is not enough for us to know who are actually the middle class.
So
That's
what should the
why it's
government
very
do then?
important. I'm really an advocate of data. We really need to invest on data architecture, data systems that will allow us to make good decisions. Because of now, it seems that a lot of decisions are ad hoc.
So in the absence of data, and we need to get things going before things are too late, what can the government do?
Well, government can always rely on the data that it has. Targeted, it's a good reminder again of that an all-blanket solution doesn't necessarily work.
So you're looking at subsidies, or maybe lifting
Subsidies
of the
to
excise
those,
taxes?
exactly, to those who are heavily affected, like the transport groups, the vulnerable, all the other vulnerable who are directly affected by this oil crisis.
And lifting of excise taxes, is that also part of the solution?
That's also part of the solution, but then there's a caveat. There should be an exit strategy, because I understand that the fiscal space of the country would also get sacrificed giving all these subsidies. But it should not be permanent, and government must make it clear that this is temporary and we have an exit strategy. This is not for the long term, because we have other expenses, more important expenses that has to be focused on.
All right, we'll leave it right there. Thank you so
Thank
much
you so
for those
much.
insights.
Thank you.
JP Rivera of PIDS. You're watching Money Talks. Coming up, the Philippines and Vietnam have reaffirmed their commitment to an enhanced strategic partnership. And a light moment between the two leaders as President Marcos sings with Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi during his state visit in Tokyo. Keep it here on One News. back to Money Talks. I'm Kathy Yang. President Bongbong Marcos and Vietnamese President To Lam have reaffirmed their commitment to peace, stability, and freedom of navigation in the South China Sea. During their meeting at Malacanang, the two leaders announced the elevation of the Philippine-Vietnam relations to an enhanced strategic partnership. Marcos said both countries remain committed to the peaceful resolution of maritime disputes based on international law, including the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, and the 2016 arbitral ruling. For his part, To Lam described the Philippines as a key regional partner and reiterated the importance of maintaining security, safety, and freedom of navigation in the strategic waterway. And a quick check on the Philippine peso and see how it's opened. It is a tad stronger, 61.74 to the dollar. The peso fell yesterday to a near record low at 61.746 against the greenback. Monday's close was just a tad better than the all-time low of 61.75 to the dollar. Traders say there's a renewed demand for the dollar amid stalled U.S.-Iran negotiations and reports of fresh attacks. Checking in on the markets overseas, U.S. stock futures slipped in overnight trading. The Nasdaq fell 0.5%, Dow shed 0.4%, and the S&P 500 slid 0.33%. Asian markets are in the red this Tuesday as the U.S.-Iran stalemate dents sentiment. Australia's ASX 200 falls 0.8%. Japan's Nikkei 225 down 0.7%. And South Korea's Kospi declines 0.4%. U.S. markets ticked to more records this Monday as investors shrugged off reports of the latest fighting between the U.S. and Iran. The Nasdaq rose 0.4%, S&P climbed over 0.25%, and the Dow advanced nearly 0.1%. And Philippine market snapped its three-day losing streak yesterday, Monday. The PSEI closed higher by 0.5% at 5,799 on the back of bargain hunting activities. The broader all-shares index ticked up 0.1% with sectoral gauges a mixed bag. 10-year government bond yields ticked down to 7.49% from the previous close of 7.521. And the latest corporate stories. Double Dragon posted record revenues, 27.91 billion pesos in 2025, up more than 56% from the year before. The property developer says the growth was driven by fresh revenues from overseas operations as it shifts further toward core income. Meanwhile, San Miguel Corporation is planning to raise up to 30 billion pesos through a preferred share sale. Proceeds will be used to refinance loans, repay maturing bonds, and support investments in its infrastructure business, including airport projects in Bulacan. And East West has launched an elevated priority banking experience for high net worth clients. The bank says the new offering includes personalized wealth solutions, dedicated relationship managers, and Visa-linked lifestyle privileges. And before we go, let's take a look at this light moment during President Bongbong Marcos' state visit in Tokyo last week. Before or after dessert, that was President Marcos and Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi singing along to the Beatles' Hey Jude and John Lennon's Imagine during the official state banquet. Marcos visited Japan to mark the 70th anniversary of Philippine-Japan diplomatic relations. His state visit also saw the two countries elevate their relationship to a comprehensive strategic partnership. That's what you call karaoke diplomacy. That is it for Money Talks. I'm Kathy Yang. Catch us again tomorrow at 9 a.m. Kapatid, we are One News, all sides, all the time. Morning Matters returns at 9:30 a.m. Have a great day ahead.
Good morning, I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro. You are watching Morning Matters here on One News. As we know, Senator Jinggoy Estrada has surrendered to authorities after the Sandigan Bayan issued a warrant for his arrest. He is now detained at the new Quezon City Male Dormitory Jail in Payatas. The warrant stems from plunder and graft charges linked to the alleged kickback scheme in the flood control scandal. Because plunder is a non-bailable offense, Estrada will remain in custody while the court weighs any petition for bail. But beyond the courtroom, his detention also carries major political weight. With Estrada now unable to attend Senate proceedings, the chamber's numbers are thrown into even greater uncertainty after the minority walkout last week and the majority's blocks a no-show at Monday's session. The question now is, how will Estrada's absence affect the balance of power in the Senate, and will it trigger another round of political realignments in the days ahead? Now, to weigh in on that and other political developments, we are joined by former Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission Chairman Greco Belgica. Good morning and thank you for joining us today.
Good morning, ma'am, and thank you for having me.
Angela na lang. Now, how do you think the Duterte camp will take this simultaneous legal and political battles?
Well, legally, you just have to follow the law, file your petitions. Pero politically, of course, it's about numbers in the Senate, diba?
Right.
Ang problema nila ngayon, 11-11. So, I mean, the problem of the country right now is that the struggle for power. The issue is really about corruption. Now it's becoming political survival. Dahil, to my opinion, yung minority, sobrang gulo ng Senado ngayon, di ba? So parang the whole country is affected. I mean, everything has rules and everything has, you have the law to follow, pero it's the political issues that are standing out. Diba? Simple arrest could have been conducted peacefully. Voting could be conducted peacefully or orderly. But then it's the political personalities that are getting in the way. So my opinion really is for the Senate sana, alisin na nila yung mga minority, majority at this point. Sana maging one independent Senate of the Philippines na lang sila, where they will look for the truth and really apply justice and not side because of political affiliation. No? Same thing with the impeachment and same thing with the investigations, so that the Senate can tackle the real important issues sa tao, ekonomiya, pagkain, mahal na presyo ng bilihin, kuryente, gasolina, trabaho. Ang daming mga tao ngayon, utang ng utang, walang pera, mga negosyo are shutting down, gobyerno lang ang may pera, and yet we see a Senate investigation, we see the scenarios in the Senate na every week na lang merong gulo, merong walkout, merong yung isang grupo will try to change the rules. Isang grupo naman will walk out because they want control. So it's about political maneuvering and who's in control.
So what would you think, or what would it take for the Senate to regain its credibility, its integrity?
Well, number one, dapat makita ng tao na they stick to the truth. Look for the truth. Hindi yung, secondly, wag yung mamili kung sino ang iimbestigahan. I mean, okay, kinulong nyo si Senator Estrada dahil for a plunder case. You're after Bato for an ICC case. Tapos news are coming out that the next will be Senator Villanueva, tapos Chis Escudero, tapos Bongo, tapos Senator Marcoleta. Parang puro majority black ata yan. Di ba?
So do you feel that the Duterte allies are being targeted here?
I think that's what's coming out with the recent cases that are being exposed and news na it will be filed. Paano yung iba? Hindi ba? Paano po yung issue that noong 2025, funds and monies were given out to impeach VP Sara, AIX, Tupad, and Yakap, allegedly 150 million for the, all these exposés.
So who do you think should be filed cases also regarding this?
Palagay ko, ma'am, you know, if you go through the law, and we should go through the law, di lahat po dapat ng binanggit at nasabi nila Zaldico, nila Gutesa, nung 18 Marines, mga na-expose sa TV, dapat po yun, lahat mga subject for investigation. Pero ang problema, yung lumalabas ngayon, sa mata ng tao, puro majority senators ang nakakasuhan, pero ni-investigasyon man lang dun sa minority nasaan. So, ang point ko dun is, this is no longer search for truth. And,
I'm sorry, you said
application for-
investigation on the minority block of the Senate?
investigation on all those that were implicated by who? Saldico, Gutesa, the 18 soldiers, those who signed the impeachment, then sa Amy Marcos called out people and names and systems that has been done to, that needs to be investigated. So, wala nang ang kaso, ni-investigasyon man lang. So, para fair and para makita ng tao na talagang batas lang to, hindi politika. Doon po magtitiwala. And then, do things correctly and lawfully. Wag pilitin, Ang sinasabi lang, example, sinasabi lang, get a valid warrant, go through the court, di ba? So, ang sabi naman iba, surrender yourself. I mean, tama lahat pero on the other hand, dadalhin nyo sa ICC di ba?
And we're talking about Senator Bato here right
I'm
now.
just saying the application of the law seems to be different. It seems to be more political dahil sa totoo lang kaya I've been saying na sibang malinis sa atin dito. So, bakit hindi natin hingin at hamunin ang lahat ng manamumuno mula Pangulo hanggang Vice President, Senators and Congressmen, ilabas na lang natin ang inyong mga salin, lahat, from the time you started office until today. And then make an open investigation, a public investigation and scrutiny of your salins para makita natin kung sino ang malinis. Talagang dapat pagkatiwalaan.
But legally in the Philippines, SALNs naman are public documents.
Yeah.
So people are, can easily get it.
No. Legally, yes. Pero theoretically, pero in reality, for example, salin ng Congress, before you can get one piece of salin document, you have to go through the plenary, and the plenary has to approve. Hindi naman yun ang sinabi na salin kabantas. Tapos, I guess, I don't know the rules ng Senate, pero yun po ang Congress, lower house, and then how do you get the salin of the President, the Vice President? These are public documents, and under the Constitution, a public office is a public trust, and all government officials and employees must at all times hold themselves accountable to the people, pero in practice, wala. Kahit tayo ngayon, try natin, even the media, can we get a copy of the salin of all these people? Kasi ma'am, if we're talking about the trust of the people, then people wants to know itong impeachment example kay Sara, marami natutuwa dito. Ako, I want this because I want to know who Piatos is. Where the confidential...
Mary Grace Piatos.
Yeah, Mary Grace Piatos, where the I want to hear the Vice President explain where all this money went. However, on the same side, if these strict financial standards and financial audits is done to the Vice President, the same standard should apply to all senator judges and congressmen who will prosecute it and the congressmen who impeach it, and including the president. I'm okay for asking the Vice President to explain the 125 million or 600 million, whatever, confidential funds. Pero at the same time, I'd like to know where the 4.5 billion pesos a year from 2022 ng confidential funds ng Pangulo at the 1.2 trillion allegedly na confidential funds naman na liquidation by certification lang ng Congress. I mean, if government can be so keen and so focused on looking for the 125 million or 600 million confidential funds of the Vice President, then all the more should they be interested to find out where the 13.5 billion of the President went na confidential funds and senators and congressmen or the confidential funds. Kung confidential funds talaga ang gusto nilang pag-usapan. Pero the standards differ from the people concerned. So, kaya hindi lang po Senado ang durug-durug. Ito my opinion, buong gobyerno durug-durug eh.
Isn't that kapag kinwestiyon natin din, of course, yung mga confidential funds ng Pangulo, it entails national security.
Yun na nga po ang issue sa confidential funds eh. Pero why are they digging it so much with the Vice
But the
President?
Vice President doesn't have to do anything to do with the confidential because her mandate is to be the spare tire of the President.
Yeah, but confidential funds is confidential funds. And okay nga eh. So kaya nga ang point ko eh, if the same standards should apply to all. If they're very keen on investigating and auditing the financials of the Vice President, then the same standards should apply to all. Now, if you say national security, kaya nga confidential funds, national security. So gusto nyong kutkutin yung kay Vice President, fine, good, ini-impeach na nga. Good, maririnig natin. But the same standard should apply to all. Kasi mahihiya yung 125 million sa 1.2 trillion at saka sa 14.5 billion pesos ng presidente at ng Kongreso, mahihiya yun. So, kaya po magulo. But if this is a talagang legal...
Talagang tingin mo there's unfair treatment of how the ombudsman is handling the cases
very
against the political figures.
I think it is what I think. I think that's what the people are seeing. But if the ombudsman wants to get the trust, and the government wants to get the trust of the people, then she has to show, and the government has to show impartiality and investigate all. Kasi po, transparency and fairness is very important for us to trust government.
Okay. All right. So you were talking to me about Senate independence. That's more important more than anything else. And you also claimed in one of your statements before, if I remember it correctly, that the minority bloc members mostly are PBBM allies. But how do you also reconcile that most of the majority bloc, most of their pronouncements, diba, in public, and even Senator Cayetano said that the Duterte drug administration is pro-life. Senator Robin Padilla said they will oppose the impeachment trial of the Vice President. Don't you think that's also leaning towards, Duterte?
I agree. And that's what's giving us all the problems today. Dahil ngayon, yung Senate of the people and Senate of the Philippines is now the Senate, one half the Senate of Bongbong, President Marcos, one half Senate of Digong. Dapat nga po ang aking payo sa ating mga kaibigan na senador, alisin na po natin yung majority at minority bloc at this point, at independent bloc. Wala na po ngayon yan. Dapat you should be one independent Senate of the Filipinos and Senate of the Philippines. Search for the truth and apply justice. Be independent. Vote according to law, vote according to truth, and vote according to your conscience, not according to your political affiliations. Dahil kaya magulo eh. So the whole nation's, everyone's eye is on you. So let go of that minority-majority bloc. Don't serve the politicians, don't serve the president, don't serve the vice president. Serve the people and look for the truth. Yun lang yun.
But isn't it the majority or the minority bloc in the Senate could traditionally practice, checks and balances in the Senate?
Pero at this point, that's why sinabi ko, okay, buo na ang majority. O gawin nyo na yung mga chairmanship nyo. Buo na ang minority. O ipasok nyo na yung mga chairmanship nyo rin at yung rules nyo sa mga committee. Now, at this point that we're looking for, we're going to face the impeachment. We're looking at senators and congressmen that should be investigated and will be filed cases on. Bitawan nyo na yan. Ngayon, be one independent Senate of the Philippines. Look for the truth. Hindi yung maka PBBM ako, maka Duterte ako. Wala na yun. At this point, Lahat.
At this point, wala na yun. But a lot of people are, relating you to the Duterte brand, which was we talked about earlier off camera. So how do you feel about that?
I mean,
you being associated with Duterte because you were Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission Chairman under the Duterte administration.
Opo, but my political leaning is my personal choice. Me as a public servant is a different thing. As a public servant, there are laws, there are rules. There's the truth. And there is the public to serve. So, yun po ang puntos ko. Kahit po nung panahon namin, magkaibigan tayo, magkasama tayo, or hindi. You get into corruption, maghihiwa-hiwalay tayo. So,
well, it's good that you mentioned that because I remember in 2013, you petitioned the Supreme Court to declare PDAF as unconstitutional, and you succeeded. That's why there's Belgica ruling, right? So, but Senator Jinggoy was associated with PDAF. So, how do you reconcile with that?
Well, the case, she's now in jail. The case will be in court. So, kung anong ginawang mali, di pagbayaran. Pero hindi ng isa lang, dapat ng lahat. Now, he will be able to explain himself in court in the proper forum. Masakit lang dahil nakakulong siya. Pero that's the price you have to pay for being a public servant. Ang tanong ko, paano yung iba? Diba? Yung sistemang yan, binanggit siya ng DPWH, siya lang ba binanggit ng DPWH? Hanggang presidente, binanggit nila sa Aldi. So, yan ang problema natin sa ating integridad ngayon ng ating pamahalaan. But then, we have to face it flat and square. Whoever was implicated, and then defend yourself in court, in public. Not for the purpose of sending anyone to jail, pero for the purpose of transparency and accountability. Even the president, I'd invite him to submit himself to investigation voluntarily. Diba? Not for the purpose of sending him to jail, whatever, but for the purpose of truth. Kung hindi pa pwede ngayon, hindi everyone na ang dami hong lumabas. That's why, sinabi ko na si Saldi, 18 soldiers, ang daming binanggit ng mga pangalan, mga sekretaryo, ang daming flood control.
You're saying that in the same way with Vice President Sara Duterte to face her impeachment trial. And what about the former president, which is now in The Hague, trying, for the case of crimes against humanity because of his drug war campaign here. So what is your assessment with that, and what do you think he should do?
Number one, hindi ko na kailangan banggitin yung kay VP at saka kay VP Sara at saka kay Presidente dahil nasa korte na. Ibig sabihin nahalata. Ano bang hahanapin natin? Nililitis na si Vice President is being impeached. So she is already going to go through the trial. But President Duterte's case is different. Bakit doon siya nililitis in the first place? Ang dahilan daw, dahil the Philippines cannot handle his case. That is not true. Historically, we saw 3 presidents here kinasuhan at na-resolve ang kaso, nakulong, President Estrada, President Arroyo, even President Marcos Sr., yung kanyang same case, crimes against humanity, 30,000 daw po ang kanyang pinapatay ng martial law, 70,000 daw ang pinakulong on to the torture, mayroon 30,000 survivors nagsasalita. Trinay dito yon, and in fact, na-resolve yun at nabayaran pa lahat ng mga sinabing na torture. The government had to pay 10 billion pesos
But I don't think we were members of the Rome Statute then.
Hindi pa, ang point po doon, merong kapasidad ang Pilipinas mag-handle ng high-profile cases. President Erap Estrada was sent to jail, nakalaya, nakatakbo. President Gloria Arroyo was sent to jail, nakalaya, nakatakbo.
On the defense of the victims here, they were saying that the reason why they went to The Hague is because ang hirap itry ng Duterte case because how powerful the Duterte is here in the Philippines at that time. And even former DILG Secretary, Justice Secretary Remulla said na there were no records, ang hirap kumuha ng evidence because of the policemen that are tied with the drug war campaign.
Number one, things are history and how things are going now here. Hindi totoo. Dahil hindi totoo, hindi kaya. Dahil nakita natin kapula nakulong si Jinggoy, 4 na nakukulong na senador, 3 na ang presidente na try dito. So nakita natin na hindi totoo yung sinasabi lang na hindi nila kaya. Kaya nila, pinasok nga nila ang Senado na nire-raid nila ang Senado. Kaya nila. Number 2, yung sinasabi na mahirap ang ebidensya. Then I return back the same question to them. Kung sinasabi ninyo na mahirap kumuha ng ebidensya rito, edi lalo mahirap kumuha ng ebidensya ang Hague dahil dito kukuha yun. Lahat ng ebidensya nandito. So if you want a fair, faster trial, do it here.
So you're saying also because of your stand, the way you say it, Senator Bato de la Rosa shouldn't surrender?
No, si Bato should surrender, pero I believe should surrender with a local warrant. Yan naman ang sinabi ng batas. Ngayon, ina-argue nila, hindi, kahit anong warrant, kahit anong judge, dahil hindi naman nag-distinguish ang court. Then you have to argue it in the Supreme Court. So that's the main point. Let's go through the process and not force everyone. Kasi yun nga ang problema. Nagpipilitan tayo, so we end up bending the law, breaking the law. What if we just follow the law? Hindi magkakaisa tayo.
You know, we can talk about this legality of the ICC arrest warrant of Senator Bato de la Rosa all day, and we will not come out with a solution because we have different, of course, view on it. But what should Bato de la Rosa do? But, you know, there's a enforceable warrant of arrest. He's technically a fugitive.
Well, he should follow the law. Diba? Kaso lang, yun nga. So, what is the law? One is claiming the other side. Both are claiming the other sides. So, you settle it in court. Yun ang sa akin doon. I think Bato has the right to assert his rights, and government also has the responsibility to implement the law. So, this is a question of law. Yun po ang problema natin dito. Gaya na sinasabi ko, may batas naman, and all processes of law should be respected. Yun ang sa akin. Government should respect the law because you're talking about sending again another Filipino abroad that never happened other than President Duterte. So, syempre, half of the Filipinos feel na bakit? So, bakit tatapakan ng gobyerno yung karapatan na yun? It is a legitimate question. Yun nga po siya sabi ko, ma'am ang nagiging desisyon ngayon ay very political. For it not to be political, then we call on our offices and officials to just follow the law and respect the rights of everyone.
Ang dami ng dagok, kumbaga, no, na napupukol ngayon sa Duterte and its allies, no, his allies as well. So what should the Duterte supporters do? Fight back politically, or, you know, play it out and see what happens?
Again, follow the law. Search for the truth. Huwag tayo maging bulag, you know. Ako, I support Digong. I believe in him. Pero hindi ako bulag, di ba? And kung ano ang totoo, yun ang gusto ko malaman. Dahil my support to Digong doesn't negate that I love the Filipinos and my loyalty is to the Filipinos. Ibig sabihin, hanapin natin yung totoo. Gawin natin yung tama. And yun ang ating pagkaisahan. Huwag na yung Duterte ako, Marcos ka. Wala yun eh. Kailangan Pilipino tayo.
Alright, on that note, maraming salamat sa iyong oras, Greco Belgica, former Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
and good
Ma'am
morning. More matters to discuss after this quick break. Keep it here on One News.
Welcome back to Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day.
All right, and at this point, let's check the situation over at the Senate with our mobile journalist, Marymon Reyes. Good morning, Marymon. Kamusta na ngayon ang sitwasyon dyan sa Senado a day following the surrender of Senator Jinggoy Estrada?
Ladies, good morning. As of this moment, we are waiting for this session to begin later, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Ngayon, medyo tahimik pa sa Senado. And ang pinaka nangyari kasi kagabi, yung 5 p.m. na supposed start ng session, originally 3 o'clock talaga ginagawa, pero may visit kasi dapat from the President of Vietnam, pero it did happen, hindi nga lang nagkaroon ng changes sa schedule. From 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock p.m., nakita lang natin kumpleto yung seats ng minority senators, but on the other side, facing the rostrum, walang nakaupong majority senators. And later in the evening, from the Office of the Senate President Alan Peter Cayetano, nag-announce na nga sila na canceled na o hindi na magtutuloy ang sesyon kahapon. Ang nasabi ng minority senators, for example, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, violation of law raw ito dahil wala raw pagkakansela o pagsususpend ng sesyon ng walang consultation na ginagawa sa mga senador o kaya sa mayorya para magkaroon man lang ng notice na hindi ito matutuloy. Ang sabi pa ng iba from the minority, sina Senator Mig Zubiri, sina Senator Bam Aquino, Raffy Tulfo, nakakahiya na raw itong nangyayari and it paints an ugly picture of the Senate, of the upper chamber. At ang naisang naman daw nilang gawin, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian nga, supposedly meron siyang privilege speech kahapon. Dapat last week pa raw yun, dapat kahapon ipagpapatuloy sana, pero hindi pa rin nangyari. Ang sabi nila, hanggang Wednesday, tomorrow, last day kasi ng session bago mag-adjourn ang Congress, sila DA, ibig sabihin committee hearings muna ang mangyayari. Ang next regular session mangyayari na by July after na ng SONA. Papasok sila. At kung sakali mang magkaroon ang desisyon, ang majority na hindi sila pupunta, basta raw ang minority senators, papasok at papasok sila. Ang sinasabi pa nila Senator Tulfo kagabi, pinatayan sila ng aircon, pinatayan sila ng internet, and tayo mismo yung sa aircon part kasi merong white noise na binibigay yung mga aircon sa paligid ng session hall, narinig at parang namatay. So tumahimik yung session hall. 10 minutes later, even yung mga staff na nakausap natin, napansin nila, uy, parang pinatay yung aircon. 10 minutes later, we saw the minority senators na lumabas muna ng session hall, bumalik later on. Hinayaan muna nilang mag-perform yung choral kasi sayang naman daw pumunta sila doon. And well, we're yet to hear again from the majority, lalo't wala pang nagiging official statement ang liderato sa hindi pagpapatuloy ng session kagabi. Ladies.
And Marymon, kahapon sinabi ni Senator Sherwin Gatchalian na they are mulling filing an ethics complaint because of what the majority did yesterday. Yan ba ay kanila pa rin pinag-iisipan?
Well, ang sabi kasi ng minority, sina Senator Mig Zubiri, kung ito raw yung makikita, pag-uusapan naman nila, may caucus kasing ginawa ang minority bloc kagabi dahil nga hindi nagpatuloy ang sesyon. Pero we should also take note na as of now, hindi pa kumpleto kasi ang committee chairman. So kung sakali mang magkakaroon sila ng plano, yung pagrolyo din itong ethics complaint, medyo kakailanganin pang maghintay. Pero nasa discretion din naman nila ito. If not them, kung merong iba from the public ang nais mag-file ng ethics complaint tulad ng ginawa against Senator Bato de la Rosa sa extensive absence niya, maaari rin naman yung mangyari. Ang aantabayanan na lang natin mamayang 3 o'clock in the afternoon kung magkakaroon na ba ng session as expected. Dahil yung isa sa ina-anticipate dito, especially from the majority, is yung pag-uusap or yung interpellation kung sakali mang magkakaroon or yung taking up ng motion ni Senator Rodante Marcoleta, amending the rules, yung motion niya, to allow a senator under justifiable reasons to participate remotely or virtually via teleconferencing platforms. And ito yung sinasabi over the weekend ng minority na haharangin nila as much as possible. Pero since kahapon, hindi nagkaroon ng session, hindi ito na-take up ulit, and they only have until Wednesday, tomorrow, huling araw ng session for this regular session.
And then Marymon, we touched on this a little bit kanina, yung nagkasagutan daw si Senate President Cayetano and DILG Secretary Remulla. Can you tell us more about this?
Ang sinasabi kasi ni SP Cayetano, actually nung pagpasok nila, papunta sa kwarto ng press con kasi 3:30 yun, magkasalita si Senator Jinggoy Estrada. Nakita namin kasama parang hawak-hawak sa braso ni Senator Jinggoy, Senator Dante Marcoleta. Kasama niya sa loob ng press con room, Senator Aimee Marcos, Senator Camille Villar, and si SP Cayetano. Nung nakita natin itong si SP Cayetano and si SILG Remulla, nung nasa labas na rin kasi sila, ang sinasabi ni SP, hindi raw maaaring arestuhin within Senate premises itong si Senator Jinggoy, he will voluntarily surrender. Medyo nagkaroon lang ng tension between the two parties during those times. Plus, tayo rin sa media na hinahabol din natin sila and yung mga staff itong mga senador, plus yung mga security personnel. Pero later on naman nakita natin na nakasakay na sa sasakyan si Senator Jinggoy. Katabi niya si SP Cayetano and nasa harapan nung convoy nila yung personnel ng pulisya plus si SILG Remulla. Ang huli kasi natin nakita, kumakaway right side ng sasakyan si Senator Jinggoy, kaya parang hindi napansin kung nakaposa siya or parang hindi itong si Senator Estrada. Dahil sinabi niya rin naman doon sa kanyang press con na he will voluntarily surrender at papatunayan niya raw na walang basehan o batayan yung mga paratang na inilalaban sa kanya.
Well, Marimon, several individuals were there yesterday sa Senate plenary session, including Constitution Framework, Christian Monsod. Diba? Ano yung mga placards na kanilang pinapaskil kahapon? And why were they there? Ano yung main reason nila to attend the session?
Sila Winnie Monsod nga rin nandoon, plus others, and kasama din yung iba pang mga, actually sa labas din ng Senado, marami rin nag-rally, mga pro-impeachment, anti-impeachment. Some are even calling out na mag-resign ang liderato, sina SP Cayetano. Kabilang din dyan yung mga statement din ng mga Monsod. And ang placard kasi nadala nila, nakalagay nung sinuot nila yon, serve with integrity. And nung pagpasok nila ng Senate building, sinusubukan namin silang matanong, bakit po kayo nandito? May bibisitahin po ba kayo? Sabi nila, punta raw sila ng session. Pero yun nga lang, wala doon ng majority block, wala rin doon si SP Cayetano na isa sa mga kino-call out nila na kailangang ituwid yung imahe at yung direksyon ng Senado. Kaya nung sabi ni Senator Migs kasi dahil nandyan yung koral, hayaan na munang mag-perform. So nag-perform yung koral. Pagkatapos ng pag-perform ng koral, doon natin nakita sila ang mga Monsod, tapos iba pang mga kasamahan nila na sinuot na itong mga placard.
Oo. Ako, I want to know lang, last na lang, Marimon, bukas na ba yung mga aircon at saka yung ilaw and wifi dyan sa Senado?
So far, okay naman. Ang titignan na lang natin mamaya sa sesyon kung magkakaroon ba ng ganito, pero hindi naman umabot kasi sa point na may lockdown or whatsoever. Kaya wala rin namang ibang pagpapaliwanag eh. We're actually asking kagabi, nangungulit talaga kami sa kahit na anong statement or pagpapaliwanag from the Senate leadership sa mga nangyari. Kasi usually, ang sinasabi kasi ni Senator Migs nung around 5:30, maaga pa naman daw, so they'll wait. Dahil wala pa namang notice, wala pa namang nagsasabi na hindi na matutuloy ang session. And nagkataon, halos 2 oras silang naghintay doon, o lagpas 1 oras silang naghintay, hanggang sa nagsabi na lang na hindi natuloy ang session. So, many questions are yet to be answered and hopefully within this day makakuha tayo.
And kahapon, Marimon, di ba dapat may meeting din si Senate President Alan Peter Cayetano with Vietnamese President Lam? Ano ba yung nangyari doon? Yun ba ay na-reschedule o canceled na yan?
Ang nasabi sa amin ng office ni SP kahapon ng umaga was canceled siya. No reasons given. Kinlarify namin ito sa press office ng Senate pala. Pero wala silang binigay na kahit na anong explanation. And supposedly, kung 3 p.m. yung original start ng session, kahapon kasi ginawang 5 o'clock p.m. kasi nga ina-anticipate yung pagbisita. Pero wala tayong ibang info na nakuha, puwera na lamang sa sinabing canceled ang pagbisita ng presidente ng Vietnam kahapon.
Alright, well, thank you very much for those updates. I was mobile journalist Marimon Reyes reporting live from the Senate.
And now, let's bring in our mobile journalist Jazz Paredes from the latest at the Camp Crame. Jazz, nasa PNP General Hospital pa rin ba si former Public Works Secretary Manuel Bonoan?
Yes, Angela, as of this moment nga ay nakumpirma natin na nandito pa sa PNP General Hospital itong si dating DPWH Secretary Manuel Bonoan. At although kanina, we tried na makapunta doon kahit sa harapan lamang ng PNP General Hospital, pero mahigpit yung kanilang seguridad doon, no? At kahit yung ating mga other na nagbabantay doon ay pinagbawalan munang magbantay. At ang assumption natin dahil nga sa nangyari kahapon na nagkakitikan at nagkagulo, so they are preventing na mangyari ulit yun for the second time. Pero ang na-confirm nga natin ay doon pa rin ngayon si si Bunoan at nakausap din natin via text message yung PNP General Hospital si Manalad at ayon sa kanya stable naman na daw yung kondisyon ni Bunoan as of this moment pero wala pa tayong matanggap na information kung mabibigyan na ba siya ng clearance na makalabas ng ospital ngayon at kung haharap na rin ba siya sa Sandigan Bayan ngayong araw, Angela.
Well, I was looking at the article about him and they said, the doctor said, or si Secretary Remulla said that he will stay there indefinitely because of his condition. And I was wondering if the camp of Secretary Bunoan would formally seek a hospital arrest given his condition.
Yes, Angela. Actually, kahapon yan din yung tinatanong sa press briefing kung magkakaroon ba ng hospital arrest or options for hospital arrest itong si Bunoan dahil nga sa kanyang condition. Dahil nga kahapon, pumatak sa 192 over 100. So, sabi pa ni Remulla, imminent na raw for stroke. So, agad siyang isinugod nga dito sa ospital sa PNP General Hospital. Although hindi niya daw direktang masagot if an hospital arrest would be given, if ever na ito yung emosyon ng kanyang legal team dahil hindi na raw yan under their jurisdiction. So it's up to the Sandigan Bayan daw dahil yung kanila daw pagsugod sa kanya sa ospital hindi mandato ng korte. So kanila daw yun na personal na desisyon dahil nga kailangan na daw talaga ng immediate medical attention. Pero for now, sinusubukan nating makuha yung pahayag nung kampo ni Bunoan kung ano ba yung kanilang magiging motion regarding that, Angela.
And Jazz, doon naman kay Senator Jinggoy Estrada, nag-file din ba ng kahit anong motion ng kanyang kampo regarding sa medical condition ng senador? Kasi before yung kanyang arrest, he was complaining about problems with his knee, kailangan daw niya ng knee replacement surgery. Ano yung latest doon?
Yes, Pauline, tama ka dyan. No? Actually, isa rin yan sa mga tinanong natin during the briefing kahapon. Dahil ang alam nga natin, isa yan sa mga primary concerns ni Estrada na yung kanyang pangangailangan ng replacement surgery. Kaya hindi pa siya makapag-desisyon if he will be arrested or he will surrender here to the CAC office. At kahapon sa ating press briefing niya, wala rin tayong klarong sagot na nakuha from Remulla kung ano yung decision dahil nga, according to him, it's not under the jurisdiction but the Sandigan Bayan will decide. Pero sa kanila daw assessment during the booking sa ADG office kahapon ay okay naman daw yung kanyang medical. Although hindi nga daw covered dito yung kanyang surgery, ay aabangan natin from the Sandigan Bayan kung ano man yung kanilang decision regarding nga sa kanyang pangangailangan itong kanyang replacement surgery.
And then Jazz, now that we're talking about Senator Estrada, can you give us a recap sa pagsuko niya kahapon?
Yes, actually kahapon, while we were waiting dito sa CAC office, around 4:18 p.m., ay dumating yung kanyang convoy, yung kanyang sasakyan kung saan nandoon si Estrada alongside with Remulla. At actually, ang ina-expect nga natin, si Remulla lamang kasi nga nakita natin sa kanyang press call, personal na inihain yung kanyang arrest warrant ni Remulla. Inasahan siya ng Miranda rights, in-importan siya. Una nating nakita paglabas ni Remulla ay kasunod dito si Senate President Alan Cayetano. Although we were not fortunate to get a statement from him, alam natin, ang sinabi ni Remulla ay sasamahan lamang daw niya sa Estrada dahil nga ito yung ginawa niya rin sa mga dating senador na kanyang pinotektahan at sinuportahan. At actually, nagkaroon pa nga ng konting altercation o konting alitan sa pagitan ni Remulla at ni Cayetano dahil nga ang gusto daw ni Cayetano ay sa labas na lamang daw yung magiging pag-aresto. Pero ang sagot pa dyan ni Remulla ay he lost that right when Bato escaped the Senate. Although after that naman daw na nandito na sa CADG office, okay naman na sila nag-usap at nadaan naman daw sa booking process nitong sa Estrada. Although nga si Bunoan ay dinerecho sa ospital. Actually, yan nangyari pa nga dyan. Sa sobrang siksikan, nabasat pa yung salamin ng entrance ng CADG office. So we had to move back and we were asked sa mga media team na mas maging organized daw yung ating interview and briefing. So sa isa lamang tayong pinapasok doon sa CADG office dahil medyo naging delikado yung ating sitwasyon kahapon dahil nga nabasat yung salamin at inahati siya sa gitna. At to the point na yung
Jazz? Okay, Jazz, medyo napuputol yung connection mo, no? So let's try that again. Can you hear us okay? Jazz?
All right, sige. Thank you so much, mobile journalist Jazz Paredes reporting live from Camp Crame.
In weather, the southwest monsoon is affecting Luzon and the western section of the Visayas. Occasional rains are expected over Zambales, Bataan, Cavite, Batangas, and Occidental Mindoro. Metro Manila, the rest of Luzon, and western Visayas will experience cloudy skies with scattered rains and thunderstorms. Meanwhile, the rest of the country will see partly cloudy to cloudy skies with isolated rain showers or thunderstorms caused by localized weather systems.
And now for more weather updates, let's talk to Pagasa weather specialist Charmaine Varilla. Good morning, Charmaine. Saang areas ba magpapaulan ang habagat?
Yes po, good morning din po sa inyo maging sa lahat ng ating mga tipakinig at ngayong araw nga, asahan natin na ang habagat ay magpapaulan pa rin sa buong Luzon at kanlurang bahagi ng Visayas at asahan din yung pagbugso-bugso na malalakas sa mga pag-ulan, especially sa may Zambales, Bataan, Cavite, Batangas at Occidental Mindoro. Dito naman sa Metro Manila, nalalabing bahagi ng Luzon at Western Visayas, magiging makulimlim ang kalangitan at kalat-kalat ang mga pag-ulan, pagkilat at pagkulog, dala rin ng southwest monsoon.
At Charmaine, kailan ba natin mararanasan yung peak nitong habagat season?
Usually po, ang peak po talaga ng habagat season ay between July to August. So for the meantime, pasimula pa lang naman po siya. And then sa nakikita naman po natin, kahit hindi pa siya nagpipeak sa ngayon, ay marami ng mga pag-ulan yung maaaring ibigay nito sa malaking bahagi ng Luzon. At nakikita po natin yan for the next 2 weeks.
Charmaine, may mga binabantayan bang iba pang weather systems?
So, base po sa ating tropical cyclone threat potential, may isang potential na mamuo na low pressure area dito sa may kandurang bahagi po ng ating bansa. So, meron po yung low to moderate chances na maging isang ganap na bagyo. Pero for the meantime, hindi pa po natin yan nakikita sa ating mga monitoring satellite. Kaya patuloy po natin antabayanan yung latest update ng Pag-asa. Kung sakali man po na mag-develop na yan into low pressure area, agad po natin ipagbibigay alam sa ating mga kababayan.
What about El Nino, Charmaine? What does this mean for our country, no? Pagdating ng mga ulan dito sa atin? Ibig ba sabihin nito mas malalakas yung mga pag-ulan pero mas konti na bagyo ang dapat nating asahan?
Yes po ma'am, tama po kayo. Kasi sa nakikita po natin, no, base sa climatology division po natin, especially pagpasok ng July and August, above normal rainfall po yung aasahan natin sa kanlurang bahagi ng ating bansa. Not necessarily naman na yung ulan na yan ay mostly galing lang sa bagyo. So within those months, prevailing pa po yung habagat natin, which is sa nakikita natin dito manggagaling mostly yung mga pag-ulan na lalong ini-intensify pa kapag meron po tayong El Nino.
At tama ba, Charmaine, na kasi maraming nagtawag sa El Nino, di ba, na super El Nino. Pero yung aming weather specialist dito sa TV5, si Alvin Pura, ang sabi niya, ang tamang term daw dyan ay strong or very strong El Nino. So hindi pala tama yung super El Nino?
Yes po, tama po kayo, no? Siguro, ginamit lang po yung term na yan para magbigay ng or ma-intensify na parang malakas siya. Pero hindi po tayo gumagamit talaga ng super El Nino term. Ang technical term na ginagamit natin, strong to very strong El Nino. So for the meantime, meron po tayong 30% chance na ina-expect na mag-fall yung ating El Nino ngayon into strong to very strong El Nino.
Okay, thank you so much for the updates, Pag-asa weather specialist Charmaine Varilla. Meanwhile, in sports, Filipina tennis star Alex Ayala is set for a dream doubles partnership. Ayala will reportedly team up with tennis icon Venus Williams in the doubles draw of the Bad Homburg Open in Germany. Both Ayala and Williams also received main draw wildcards for the singles competition of the WTA 500 tournament. The partnership gives the 20-year-old Ayala a rare chance to share the court with a 7-time Grand Slam singles champion. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned to Morning Matters.
Good morning and welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. Senator Jinggoy Estrada is asking the Sandigan Bayan to quash the plunder charge against him or at least suspend proceedings while his legal remedies are still pending. And now let's get the latest from mobile journalist Arles de los Santos. Hi Arles, ano na ba ang latest sa kaso ni Senator Jinggoy Estrada?
Well, Pauline, mamayang 1:30 ng hapon ay inaasahan nga natin na isagawa yung arraignment para sa kasong plunder at graft ni Senator Jinggoy Estrada na hawak ng 5th Division ng Sandigan Bayan. No? Ayan nga ay matapos siyang maaresto kahapon ng Department of Interior and Local Government. Hinihiling niya na ibasura nga yung kaso sa kanya at kung yung maaari, ibalik ito sa Office of the Ombudsman or Department of Justice para nga sa re-investigation. No? At kabukod pa dyan, kung maaari i-consolidate ito or pagsamasamahin. So far, mula na nagsimula nga na i-file yung kaso sa kanya, 3 kaso na at 3 motion na rather yung na-file sa kanya. No? Pero Pauline, actually napakahalaga rin na pag-usapan at itanong kung ano nga ba talaga ang nangyari kay Estrada. Siya ba talaga ay naaresto o siya ba ay subuko ayon sa kanyang sinabi? Dahil sa press conference ni Secretary John Vic Remulla kahapon, sinabi nito na naaresto o inaresto nila si Senator Jinggoy Estrada matapos ngang sunduin ito sa Senado at basahan ng kanyang Miranda rights.
Arles, ano naman yung naging basehan ng kampo ni Senator Estrada in wanting to quash this plunder case and their request na ibalik ito sa Ombudsman?
Well, Pauline, so far naging consistent naman yung kampo ni Senator Jinggoy Estrada at sinasabi nga na hindi sila nagkaroon ng pagkakataon na nasilipin yung mga rekomendasyon at yung findings ng Department of Justice maging ng Office of the Ombudsman bago nga ito isampa sa Sandigan Bayan bilang isang formal na kaso. No? And ayon sa kanila, nakapag-file naman daw sila ng counter affidavit nung sinisimulan nga yung investigation or yung tinatawag natin na preliminary investigation, pero yun nga yung recommendation na or yung ifa-file na wala silang naging tugon dito. Pero na-confirm naman ng counsel ni Estrada na nakuha na nga nila itong mga papel na ito na kinakailangan at ayun yung kanilang sisilipin at titignan ngayon.
Arles, balikan natin yung proseso that Senator Estrada underwent, yung fingerprints, mugshot, ano pa yung ma-expect natin?
Well, at least doon sa mugshot, Cheska, kasama yan sa mga tinanong natin kasi naging viral sa social media yung tila per decade nga na pagkakaresto na Estrada, kaugnay ng plunder, so inaabangan ng publiko yan. No? Tinanong natin kahapon sa CIDG kung nakuna na nga ba ito ng mugshot at yung other profiling or booking procedure na kinakailangan. Ayon sa CIDG ay naisagawa na ito sa kanilang opisina doon sa Camp Crame kahapon. Pero yung booking procedure na isinagawa nga sa Sandigan Bayan kahapon, nakita natin yan, kinuhanan pa rin siya ng fingerprint at in-return yung warrant sa kanya. No? Sinubukan natin makuna ng panayam sa Estrada kung kumusta na nga ba siya, kumusta yung kanyang tuhod at ano yung nararamdaman niya, pero wala tayong nakuhang tugon sa kanya. Maging sa kanyang mga kaanak na medyo mailap at hindi tumutugon sa media, pero hindi naman natin pinilit na makunan sila ng sagot. Hinayaan lamang natin na kung aalis sila, kung dumating sila, pero mamaya susubukan natin ulit na makunan sila ng panayam at yung kanilang moral ngayon na nakakulong na nga muli si Senator Jinggoy Estrada.
I have 2 questions pero very quick lang, Arles. Number 1, pinosasan ba si Senator Jinggoy Estrada? Also, before he surrendered yesterday to the authorities, in his press con, he said, or he claimed, na there were people who approached him and said to ask him to withdraw from the majority and go to minority bloc at in exchange, iaatras daw yung kaso against him. And meron ba siyang, kumbaga parang evidence to prove that really happened?
Actually, Angela, unahin muna natin doon sa kung naka-handcuff siya. Hindi natin nakita kahapon na naposasan o pinosasan sa Senator Jinggoy Estrada pagdating niya ng Sandigan Bayan kasamang ating mga law enforcement individuals and representatives. Naging smooth naman yung kanyang pagpasok at labas sa Sandigan Bayan. Walang posas at heavily secured itong si Estrada. At kahit yung media nga, limitado rin yung paglapit sa kanya. Sunod naman, Angela, yung tungkol doon sa usapin na meron ngang mga personalidad na lumapit umano sa kanya at inalok siya na umalis ng independent majority block ng Senado. Wala pa rin tayong kumpirmasyon kung sino-sino nga ba yan at kung ano yung mga basehan at ebidensya niya sa kanyang alegasyon na yan. No? Pero susubukan natin na makuha yan. No? Pero at least sa posisyon ng Office of the Ombudsman, sinisigurado nila na kahit anumang kaso ay kailangan dumaan sa legal na proseso, pero sisilipin at papanoorin daw nila muli yung pahayag ni Senator Jingo Estrada para mas makapagbigay ng tugon dyan. Pero pangako ng Office of the Ombudsman, yung tuloy-tuloy nga no, na pagbuo ng mga kaso para mapanagot ang sinumang individual na masasangkot sa anomalya ng flood control scandal sa ating pamahalaan.
Thank you, Mobile Journal, Arles de los Santos.
Now at this point, let's get some updates from the House of Representatives. We have Mobile Journal Amy Atienza reporting live on the ground. Amy, what's happening there?
Good morning, Angela. Nako, series of events nga yung aasahan natin na mangyari dito mismo no, sa Kamara. Dahil maya-maya lamang ay magsisimula na din yung konting pag-uusap muli tungkol sa impeachment ni Vice President Sara Duterte. Pero balikan lang din natin no, yung mga nangyari pa kahapon dito sa Kamara. Kahapon ay nagkaroon nga rin no, ng press conference itong si Representative Jervy Luistro na siyang lead prosecutor no, ng impeachment. At nasabi niya nga no, na tutugon ang House Prosecution Panel doon sa naging response ni VP Sara sa kanyang issuance of summons by this week. So inaasahan nga na by Friday ay doon na din maifa-file mismo ng House Prosecution Panel yung magiging reply nila para dito. At doon nakapaloob dahil nga nakita natin doon sa response ni VP Sara na parang gusto niyang i-dismiss yung impeachment articles laban sa kanya. So expected natin na yung magiging response din mismo ng PROSEC team dito mismo ay masasabing i-oppose daw nila ito at naniniwala kasi sila no Angela na talagang malaki yung mga ebidensya na naisiwalat lalo na doon sa pagdinig ng House Justice Committee kung saan nga masasabi no na merong 4 na articles of impeachment na nabuo ang Kamara kaugnay na nga ng confidential funds, unexplained wealth, bribery at grave threat ng ikalawang Pangulo. Kaya inaasahan nga din natin no na magiging mahaba pa yung talakayan at tuloy-tuloy naman daw yung nagiging preparasyon ng House Prosecution Panel para nga doon sa inaasahang pre-trial conference. Pag sinabi din kasi nating pre-trial conference no ay ito raw yung pagmamarka ng mga evidence at pagsusumite nila ng mga possible list of witnesses. Right now, nasa around 25 yung bilang ng witnesses kasama na yung hostile witnesses na tinitingnan mismo ng House Justice Committee. As for the private lawyers, ay marami daw talagang lumapit dito sa prosecution panel para nga daw magbigay ng kanilang tulong, though hindi pa rin maibigay mismo ni Representative Luistro kung ano nga ba yung final list ng private litigators na tutulong para dito sa impeachment. Pero voluntary naman yung naging basis nila dito. Kailangan lang din daw pag-usapan mismo ng 11-member House Prosecution Panel kung sino-sino nga ba yung pinal na makatutulong para dito mismo sa kaso ng impeachment ni Vice President Sara Duterte.
Alright, thank you so much, Mobile Journal, Amy Atienza.
The iconic chicken inasal takes center stage at Bacolod's Upper East as locals and tourists gather to celebrate this year's Chicken Inasal Festival, highlighting the city's rich culinary tradition and cultural pride. Mobile journalist Danielle Dayao reports.
The iconic chicken inasal takes center stage here at the Upper East as tourists and Bacolodons come together to celebrate Chicken Inasal Festival.
From colorful floats and lively dance performances to rows of smoky grills and food stalls, hundreds of Bacolodons gathered along the Upper East to celebrate the dish that represents the city, the Bacolod Chicken Inasal.
It's really good. The food is excellent. I like the chicken very much. It's a great experience. 10 out of 10.
If i-compare mo sa iba na mga inasal, lahit gud ang kuan sa Bacolod. That's why gabalik-balik gud mi there sa Bacolod because of the chicken inasal. Masarap and juicy.
Now in its latest edition, the festival became more than just a 3-day event, as the community took their chance to share their food, culture, and hospitality.
When you say bacolod, it's chicken inasal. When you say chicken inasal, it's bacolod seed. This is what we're doing right now. 3 days, different style of celebrating with one purpose, and that is in a way to honor the food kung saan nakilala yung bacolod.
But the festival wasn't just about what's on the plate, as barangay performers also filled the streets with color, music, and cultural movement, culminating the highly anticipated ASEAN-inspired arena dance competition.
It's been 2 years na hindi nang nanalo yung Barangay Granada. So ngayon, nang super happy kami kasi na binawi namin yung panalo na gusto namin.
Yung ibang dancer na kasama namin ay nabigyan din ng opportunity para makapag-perform dito.
On showcasing our own chicken inasal, not only in Bacolod but in universe rather.
Meanwhile, local vendors are also grateful for the chance to showcase their culinary heritage through a rotisserie show.
Binigyan kami ng opportunity ng Mega World na kapakatenda dito sa night market. So sila nagtulong sa akin to promote sa ako the business para makilala dito sa Bacolod nga isa sa mga masarap na inasal.
From the grill to the festival stage, the Bacolod Chicken Inasal proved that it's a community's one shared pride. As more than a local favorite, it's a tradition, a cultural icon, and a taste of Bacolod that keeps people coming back for more. Kapatid Bobal Journal, Daniel Tayaw, we are One News.
Namit gid. That wraps up today's episode of Morning Matters. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
We hope we have given you just the right start to your morning. I'm Cheska Liton-Calao.
Let's make the day better. I'm Pauline Verzosa.
Kapatid, we are One News.
All sides,
all the time.